Hi, boys and girls. It's story time again. Well, today our story is called The Thing. Well, Tom and Alex, they ran in the back door of the house, and in their excitement of getting home from school, the door went slamming shut behind them. Mom, she came into the kitchen. She had been in the living room sewing on some mending she was doing. And she said, "Did you boys have a good day at school today?" And they said, "Yeah, we did." Mom said, "Well, go get your school clothes changed real quick, put on some playthings, because I have a surprise for you." Well, what boy, or girl for that matter, doesn't like a surprise? So they rushed into the bedroom, and that's exactly what they did. They changed their clothes in record time. And they came back in the kitchen and they said, "Mom, what's the surprise?" Mom grinned. She said, "Well, I got a phone call today from Mr. Miller." Now, Mr. Miller owned an airstrip where small planes came, and he had one hangar. Well, he said that a friend of his had towed an old truck into this field right behind his hangar. And the man had brought it there because he wanted Mr. Miller to haul it away. But when Mr. Miller went out to look at it, the whole back of the truck was loaded clear full of cans, all different kinds of cans. Well, he thought of the boys, Tom and Alex. He knew that they collected aluminum cans and sold them. He got on the phone and he called Mom, and he told Mom about that truck. And he said, "It's clear full of cans. Would your boys like them? The only trick here is I need to get rid of that truck real soon. So they're going to have to do something with it right away." So Mom said, "If you guys want them, we have to go over right now." And Alex and Tom, they looked at each other and they turned to Mom and they said, "If we can feed our rabbits when we get home, we're ready to go right now." And they ran to the back door and flew out of it. Well, Mother, she grabbed her purse, and then on second thought, she grabbed her bag of mending so she'd have something to do while she waited. And they drove out of town to where that little airstrip was, and Mom drove right up beside that old green truck. Now, it was really old. The paint was peeling off of it, its tires were flat, and the taillights were hanging like this out of the back of that truck. Well, Mom turned around and she parked the back of their pickup right up flat against that old green truck. And she said, "Now, boys, you have to hurry. And there's no time for you to sort out the aluminum cans. Just put all those cans in the back of our pickup. And when you get home, you can sort out the ones you want to keep, and we'll send the rest of it away to the dump." They got out of the pickup, the front seat by their mom, and they got in the back. And before Mom knew it, there was clanging and clicking, and the sound of cans of all descriptions being thrown in the back of her pickup. Well, Mom, she started working on her mending, but every so often she'd turn her head around and she would look to see how the boys were progressing. My, they were working hard. Well, in their household, there was a rule. If the boys wanted extra things, big things like a bicycle or ball equipment or sports stuff, they had to earn the money to do it. And this was one of the ways that they earned money was they gathered cans, aluminum cans. Well, Mother continued with her sewing and the boys kept continuing until finally they jumped out of the back of that truck and they came up and they pulled open the pickup door and they said, "We're done, Mom." And they jumped in. Mom said, "You guys were really quick. I'm proud of you." And off to home they went. Well, when they got home, Mom said, "Now we all have to do our chores really quick because Dad'll be home soon." So the boys went out and they fed those rabbits. They did the rest of their household jobs. And before they knew it, their father was home and he stuck his head out because the boys had started sorting those cans, putting the aluminum cans into big garbage bags that they would take to the aluminum recycling place to earn money. And the other stuff they put in big garbage bags, they would go away to the garbage dump. Well, Dad, he came out and he looked at their progress and he said, "You'll have to finish it tomorrow, but as soon as you get home from school, I want you to get this sorted out because Mom's not going to want to go clanging down the highway with all those cans jumping around in the back of her pickup when she goes to work." They had supper and they had worship and they did their homework. By the time they were done, it was time to go to bed. Well, Mom worked night shift at the hospital. She was a nurse. And that night, she did have to listen to that clanging and rattling all the way to the hospital of all those cans. But it wasn't upsetting to her. She was proud of her sons who worked so hard. Well, when she got done with her 12-hour work shift, Mom was tired, and she came home. And she always did some chores before she finally got to go to bed. She went in the kitchen and she cleaned up the breakfast things. Then she washed a couple loads of clothes. Finally, she was really tired, and she went and crawled in her bed and went sound to sleep. But in late afternoon, her sleep was interrupted by the sound of tin cans being thrown out of that pickup. Clink, cling, clang. And she kind of smiled to herself. They're sorting the cans. And she turned over and lay down a little longer. And then she was awakened by loud clanking sounds like clunk, clunk. It was like a vibrating sound on some big piece of metal. Didn't sound like the cans anymore. Mother quickly got out of bed and put on her bathrobe, and she ran to the back door and she looked outside to see what was going on. And there was Tom Sitting on the cement was a big thing. It looked like a bomb to Mom. And there stood Tom with his hatchet, chop, 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 on the side of this thing that looked like a bomb. Mother opened the door. Her face was pale, and she yelled out the door, "Stop that, Tom! You boys come here right now!" Well, their boys were the boys were surprised at the mother's shrill voice to them, but they obeyed immediately, and they came running into the house. And when they got in, Mom leaned against the door. She said, "Where did you get that thing?" And Tommy was all excited. "It was under all those cans in that big truck yesterday. So we hauled it home because we wanted to see what was in it. Doesn't it look like a bomb, Mom?" And Mom, she said, "It does look like a bomb. You boys stay right here. You don't go close to that thing. I'm calling Dad." So she called Dad at work and asked Dad to come right home, which he did. And when he got there, he looked out at that thing, and he could see a little crack on the side where Tom had been hitting it with his hatchet. And on the ground was some black grainy stuff. Dad rushed into the house and he said, "Boys, where did you get this?" And the boys told him. And he said, "You guys, all of you, stay in the house right now." And he went to the phone and he called the local sheriff. And the sheriff said, "I'll be right there." And when the sheriff got there, the sheriff was amazed because you don't see bombs and artillery shells and things like that just sitting around. And Dad explained to him where the boys had found it. And he said, "You guys stay in the house. I'm calling the bomb squad from a local military base." Well, it wasn't long till their truck appeared, and out jumped a whole crew of men, all dressed in garb with protective stuff on their faces and over their heads, and big, long glove things on their arms. And they immediately went out in the backyard and examined that thing, but not before, once again, they told Mom and Dad and the boys to stay in the house. Well, they examined it, and it wasn't too long till, as carefully as they could, they had picked the thing up and they had put it in the back of their truck on a very soft something, and they had disappeared. But before they left, the head officer had come in and he asked Dad hundreds of questions. Where did the boys get it? How did it get here in their yard? Where did it come from? They went, asked and asked, and Dad answered them all as best as he could, because Dad couldn't figure out why a bomb would be somewhere where kids could find it. And the officer said, "Well, it's not a bomb, it's an artillery shell, but we think it's still alive." Boys and girls, do you know what it means for a shell to be alive? That means if it gets bumped just right, or dropped, or anything like that, it will explode. It could blow up cars or a house. Or Mother's face after that officer left, she was as pale as could be. And Father, he looked at the boys who were still very excited, still not really getting the danger. And Dad explained to them what that shell could have done. And then he looked at Tom and he said, I just can't believe God must have protected you. I don't know what would have happened if he hadn't. And then Dad said, we'll probably never know the rest of this story, because the officer had told Dad he wouldn't answer his questions. He told him it was classified information with the military. So he told the boys, he said, now boys, this is a mystery. We will probably never know the answer for it. But I do know that God took care of you boys today. And then Alex, he was the younger of the two boys, came up with the right answer. And he said, Dad, don't you think we should thank God for protecting us? And that was the right thing to say. And that was exactly what they did. Because even when we don't know we're in trouble, even when we have no idea what something is, God is already protecting us. Thank you, boys and girls, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.